Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining me on this talk. We are now on the fifth stage of Patanjali's eightfold, eight-limb yoga path. Thank you very much for being here this morning. It is 10 a.m. on the 16th of May. So today we're going to be discussing Pratyahara, and it is the fifth limb of yoga. Now, in the previous four limbs, we've looked at ways of just living our personal lives. So yamas, which are restraints, things not to do; niyamas, things to do; asana, which are the postures that we put our physical body through; and pranayama, which is the transfer and flow of energy using the breath in particular. So once we've covered those four, feel free to have a look at the other videos. Pratyahara becomes the next step. So we leave behind physical aspects of actions, observances, ways for the body to behave, ways for the brain to behave, for the characters. And now we go into the second chapter. The fifth limb is almost in contrary to everything we've learned, and that is to withdraw. so if you followed the first four limbs, what you've done is you've gone out into the world, you've been a nice person, you've told the truth, you've practiced your yoga, postures on a daily basis, 3 in the morning, 3 in the evening, sun salutations if you can. And then now we transcend and we go into a place where we start to switch off a little bit from our outside world. So it's interesting that we don't do this one in the first place, but I think it's much easier to follow a path when you know what to do and what not to do with the yamas and niyamas. So this is going to be a short episode because Pratyahara is quite basic, but at the same time it's massive, and you really just got to try it. So me talking about it isn't really going to make a difference. You've got to just have a go at it. So what does it mean? Pratyahara. If we look at prati, it means contra or against, or it's like the prefix non. So if you look at non-objective, you've got objective, and non means the opposite of the other word. So prati is the same prefix as non. And then ahara. Now in Sanskrit, it means things like food or diet or intake or input. So if we're looking at non-input as a practice, it means we need to switch off from our input. Now, what gives us input? Senses. So the 5 senses most people know that we have are sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. Now in Pratyahara, we switch off those senses, and the reason for that is we start to disconnect from the external world and start to go into the internal world. Why would we do that? Well, it's the beginnings of learning to sit for meditation, because if you're sitting in a room full of people and they're all talking and you can hear things happening outside the room, or say for example you go to a field and suddenly someone starts blowing leaves in the next field or cutting the grass, this is a great way to start to practice to switch off those external noises, switch off the external smells. You can close your eyes and imagine that you're anywhere. The idea is to switch everything off. So there's different ways that you can do this. There's the easiest way is to close your eyes. If you close your eyes, you switch off one of your most important senses normally. However, say for example, if you have a person in your life that can't see very well, you can maybe have experienced that their other senses pick up in replacement of that lost sense. So slight tangent, but anyway, so if you want to have a look at how you can practice Pratyahara, just start by switching off the senses. So for example, you can close your eyes, and suddenly you've lost a lot of the stimulation in the world because you're not looking at things. Maybe you can start hearing things that you hadn't noticed before when your eyes were open. Other things that you can do is close your ears. So if you can't hear anything, what tends to happen is you have that internal monologue. So you start to notice the internal world. If you are in a room or in a place with a lot of smells, then you can close the nose, so that you're not smelling, say for example, nail varnish fumes or countryside smell, which we all know what that is. Another thing you can do is change what you're tasting. So perhaps have a glass of water, swirl it around the mouth, spit it out, and then have a clean, fresh palate with nothing going on in there. For example, I remember going to some meditations, laughing yoga meditations, having had garlic before, and no, that was a sensory output of mine that was not great for everyone else. But I'm sure that they couldn't smell my garlic breath. But it's an example of how taste can affect your perception of what's going on as well. And then touch. Touch could be things like temperature. So say for example, if you were going to sit for a meditation and try and withdraw the senses, and you're sitting in sunshine, it might get quite hot, and then suddenly that's all you can think about, the fact that it's just so hot. Or in contrast, if you're sitting in a room and suddenly there's a cold draft, that's an example of how touch can affect your meditation. So the fifth limb is basically about withdrawing from the senses. So the easiest way is to reduce the amount of senses that are being used. Close your eyes, use some earplugs, have a clean palate in your mouth, and make sure that the temperature is quite nice. And then start to notice all the little subtle differences when these absences of sensory input are changed. So say for example, you go to sit in a quiet room and suddenly a motorbike just whizzes past the window. What we want to do is ignore that and almost acknowledge that there's a noise, but not respond to it. I was watching a video a little while ago about Pratyahara, and the lady made a very good point, saying that we have prana, and if we go back to pranayama as an example of the way that we direct our energy flow, Pratyahara is the practice of taking all the energy back in to ourselves and sitting it on the internal world. So have a try. What I would like to show is one of the ways that you can exercise Pratyahara. And it's going to look funny, but it's a type of meditation that's called the bee meditation, Bumble Bee Meditation. I'll put in the comments, in the description, the way it's called in Sanskrit. But it's very simple. You basically take your thumbs and close your ears. So you switch off your hearing. Then you take two fingers and you close your eyes. So then you can't see anything. And then it's up to you what you want to do with these. Some people close just at the bridge of the nose here, because if you close just at the bridge, you can see my spot. Let me use my good side. When you close the bridge here, it's somehow you smell less. So when you sniff, you don't really smell very much in comparison to when you're nasal passages are open. So you close your ears, you close your mouth, and you close your nose slightly. And then to really make it a little bit more particular to you is you hum. So as you inhale, when you exhale, you make a humming noise. So So close your ears, close your eyes. So what that does is it just switches everything off. So because the tongue is sometimes pushed to the roof of the mouth as well, that switches off the taste. And what that does is it's almost like a little bit of a reset inside your brain. I'd really, really strongly suggest that you try it because it's like a mental floss. you can't think of anything. You've just got this noise reverberating around your throat, your mouth, your nasal passages, the front part of your brain, the back part of your brain, and it's just this buzzing noise. And for me, it's very relaxing because it allows for almost like a whitewash of nothingness happening. Now, it is a stimulus being put in because it's a noise. However, because if you can just keep it monotone, it's almost a non-stimulus. There's not any meaning towards it. So I will put not a long description, but a very short description of how to do that. And I would recommend trying that for about 4 or 5 breaths, and then you can see how your mind and your body and your everything feel afterwards. So why do we practice Pratyahara? Now that we know what it is and how to do it, in a sense, why would we do it? Well, if the ultimate goal of being a yogi is to reach the state of samadhi, which is absolute magnificent bliss, wouldn't it be really awkward if you were in that perfect state of bliss and you hear someone's phone go off in the next room and it snaps you out of it? That would be awful. So what we do is we start to practice for that wonderful, glorious moment. And actually these practices of switching off from the external world and delving into the internal world, because it's inside that you'll find samadhi, that you'll find that eternal state of happiness. Not eternal because it's fleeting, but it happens to just encompass your whole life and everything and everyone, and it's magnificent. I'm quite pleased to say that I have experienced it. I have experienced a moment in time when I just felt that everything was okay, and then when I mean everything was okay, I mean like everything was okay. I was in a, maybe it's a story for another time, but leave me a comment if you want to know more. The purpose of this episode is to explain what Pratyahara is and introduce you to it. So it's just a short episode. It's the 5th limb of yoga, meaning withdrawal from the external senses. Try to sit still, observe the stimulus around you, and then start to switch off one by one the sight, the sound, taste, the touch, and just start to see what happens. So you close your eyes, close your ears, close your nose, close your mouth, and try to bring all your attention into your own self. Try to bring it to the breath. Try to bring it to your heartbeat and just notice that one particular thing. The 6th limb of yoga is a pointed concentration, and that's dharana, which we'll talk about next week. So Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate your time. It's a short episode because there's not really very much to say about it. There's very much to do. So switch off, try it now. You've got plenty of time. Close your eyes. Try to acknowledge the noises around you, but not respond or react to them, and see how it goes. What you're going to do is open a door to the inside world. So when you switch off the outside world, you go into a completely different place that's internal and can be magical in there. So let me know how you find it. If you have any more questions, just send me a message, leave me a comment. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'll put the links in the description box. I really hope you enjoy my episodes. Some of them are very long because I put lots of examples in. In this particular one, I just wanted to put one. So I don't want to overload your sensory information. So on that note, thank you again. Please subscribe. Please like. This helps with me having more ability to help other people. Constructive criticism is always welcome, and the main thing is to just enjoy your time on this planet by doing things that are good for you, your body and your mind. So lots of love, and I'll see you next week at 10 a.m. ish. Namaste.